So, if you see this over here this last week, we've had a lot of W's. A lot of W's. One, two. Let's see, in the month of January, 4 losses. We are 8-4 since the new year started. We ended up winning 5 in a row at Indiana, at Toronto, versus Miami, at Dallas, which was a very impressive game, and versus New York. Some of the things I took from this 5-game winning streak was we're finally playing team basketball again. If you look, Trae Young isn't the one that's leading all the time. We got DeJounte Murray, who's starting to assert himself offensively, not just scoring but being the primary ball handler. And then if you look at assists, I think that's assists. Yeah, assists. Trae Young led the team in assists 5 out of the 6 games. And got everybody else involved. Everybody involved. And then we watched the game last night against Charlotte, and Trae did the same thing that happened, where he got everybody else involved, and then the game he started taking bad shots to get his shot, and also stopped. For some reason, he froze DeJounte Murray out. DeJounte Murray had like 20 points at halftime. DeAndre Hunter had like 18 at halftime, and he just stopped passing him the ball. He started taking all the shots. And Charlotte with no LaMelo. All they had was Scary Terry and Mason Plumlee. Miles Plumlee. One of the Plumlee brother. And
nobody care.
They had 3 players in double figures, and the Hawks had 6, and we lost.
Trae Young is committed to making me right. I thank him for the excellent content because for some reason people believe that I'm a Trae Young hater until you actually watch him play. And then the more you watch him play, the more you're like, you know what? Chris ain't wrong. He's just pointing out what's blatantly obvious.
Now, I will say Nate deserves some of this credit too, some of this blame too. Nate deserves some of this blame.
You talking about for the end of the game?
Yes.
Yes, but I think that the reason, and I saw it over Twitter a few different
times.
Well,
tell them tell them why first before you go in for the listeners.
So, last play of the game, after Trae has basically shot us out of the game, Nate uses Trae as the inbound passer, which his defense is always going to be, I want to give our best passer an opportunity to make a play. The real answer is, I was tired of Trae shooting stupid shots, so I said I was not going to let him shoot the shot at the end of the game. That's the answer.
He definitely said, I want DeAndre Hunter or I want DeJounte Murray taking the final shot. That's what Nate said in the post game, which is why he had Trae, who he said was our best passer, inbounding the ball. The issue is you have Trae at 6 feet, and then they put every team, whenever they see Trae inbounding the ball, they just put Mason Plumlee. Or they put a 7-footer in front of him and make him try to see around. And when he can't see around,
only thing you can do is chuck it into the backcourt.
Even that, but Trae has this thing where he likes to throw it off the person, right? Because it's a 5-second rule. Well, you can't do that when it's only 2 seconds left in the game, because then the ball dribbles out and now it's 0.8 seconds. So now instead of a catch, dribble, and shoot, it's basically catch and shoot. And they do the same thing. Yep. This is why it's Nate's problem, though. You had a chance to change. You had a chance to take Trae off of there. You saw what they were doing. And you had a chance to put somebody else, somebody taller, to make the pass. John Collins. I would have liked to see Jalen Johnson at that point, because Jalen Johnson is probably our best passing big man. So I would have liked to see Jalen Johnson there. And then, of course, Nate put
Trae back on the floor.
Yeah.
He's not. What he's saying was, there will be no way in hell you shoot this shot.
I think spiteful. Nate and Trae. So after the game, so basically what happened was Trae couldn't get the ball in, got a 5-second violation. Charlotte got the ball, hit 2 free throws, and that's how you got to 122-18 versus 120-118. Nate also took out AJ Griffin in the game, who was our hottest shooter all night, and took him out in the fourth quarter. Don't get it. Then he put in Jalen Johnson, who hadn't played all game.
Drives me nuts.
He hadn't really played all game. You put in Jalen Johnson for defensive purposes, and he gets that phantom foul called. Now, what bails Nate out is all of this was null and void because they were up 19 until Trey started to play iso ball. When Trey started to play iso ball, him and Scary Terry went back and forth at each other, and Scary Terry Rozier cooked Trey. The entire second half, he cooked Trey. And Trey was going back and forth, and he was getting his ass kicked. Plain and simple. Can't say it. I don't know any other way to say it. I don't know any other way to sugarcoat it. I am normally the one here on this podcast.
Make sure you clip that.
I am the one on this podcast that always defends Trey because I see the potential of what and who he could be.
Let me turn my volume up.
Of who he could and what he could be, because he's such a dynamic passer, and when he actually is engaged and likes everybody, which is the immaturity factor, and likes everybody and gets everybody involved, the Hawks were the number 3 team in the East and went to the Eastern Conference Finals. When he's selfish Trey, when he's Trey that doesn't like the team, when he's Trey that decides to become aloof and charters a private jet home during the 2022 playoffs and 2022 NBA playoffs.
It's not aloof.
And doesn't tell the team where he's going to be, where he's going, doesn't have any communication, and is away from the team. You now are a dick. You now are an asshole. You now are the person, right? I criticized Urban Meyer to the umpteenth degree for when they lost, and then he decided to stay in Ohio and go to his bar. Well, I mean, the same thing. You in the playoffs, bro, and you playing horribly. Mind you, against the Heat, he was awful. He was awful.
Thank you. That was the part I was waiting for somebody to get to. Who do you think you are? That's the question I have. Like, I just read somewhere they're talking about Rob Horry kind of, I guess Kobe went and did a book tour while they were playing. He's Kobe Bryant.
Are not Kobe.
Trae Young ain't won nothing. He ain't MVP nothing. And you think that you're going to play terrible and then just decide to go on a private jet? He is spoiled to the millionth degree. And we've given him all the power, and he's best friends with the guy who's basically running the team now.
That's the crazy part. Touchdown. 14-0. Bengals.
Well, this is over. And
which is over? Wait, where are you going?
I'm talking about this situation. I think that the Hawks are a second half team. I think that we'll play better after All-Star. We'll probably end up fifth, sixth seed, right around there. But this hierarchy is not going to work. And it's definitely not going to work for players.
The Hawks signing and making Nick Ressler, the son of Tony Ressler, president of basketball operations, and removing Travis Schlink. You talking about that? Or you talking about
they didn't really do that.
Yes, they did.
What they did was, no, because Ressler's position is not head of basketball operations. So what they did was basically just closeted him. He's still on the payroll, but he's away from the team, from my understanding.
Yeah, Schlink.
You move Landry Fields into the highest there is no president of basketball operations right now. And you just made him the highest ranking basketball operations person. So basically the president of operations. And everything that he's listening to is coming from Nick Ressler and his two buddies. So they still have whatever made up positions or whatever positions they were given. But yeah, it's bad.
And then you sign Aaron Holiday, who played basketball with Nick Ressler. Like, all of the questionable moves and stuff that we didn't really see coming are starting to be like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense now. Why y'all did this, in terms of, not saying it's a smart move, but it makes sense of how these moves came to fruition.
We understand the reasoning behind it. We just don't like the reasons.
Nope. And then, of course, the Cavs eyed 3-team trade featuring Hawks' John Collins and Jazz's Malik Beasley. Here's the thing about the whole John Collins trade scenario. Now they're trying to downplay John Collins and say, well, teams don't want to take him because of his contract at $25 million a year. 5 years, 125. Mind you, he's played 2 of those years. So he gets, it's really 3 years, $75 million. I think that's a ploy just to try to get them to drive the price down for John, because the Hawks wanted a whole lot at first. But there's no trade package that doesn't involve Lauri Markkanen where the Hawks come out a winner. Not one. These teams.
They have already made it explicitly clear. Double down and let it out again. Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, untouchable. Play ball with everybody else that you want. But in this trade is stupid. And I'm going to tell you why it's stupid. Number one, we get Malik Beasley. And first of all, Malik Beasley does the same thing that Bogey does. They're a volume
we would get
Malik
Beasley
shooter.
And Karis LeVert.
Yes. No way. First of all, there's no other place to get more shots. And do you expect us to have a power forward on the team? I don't know what. Every time that I see these trades, I get mad because I don't know that they think that the Hawks. What starting lineup are you going to roll out if you get Malik Beasley and Karis LeVert?
Hunter at the 4.
We'll never get another rebound a day in our life.
We can't get rebounds now. Or unless you start Okongwu or start Jalen Johnson. But Jalen Johnson has been in a lot of these trade proposals
Can't
too.
Shoot.
Who?
That means that you would start 2 guys that have to score from the same exact position.
Yep.
Makes no sense. And you can't start Okongwu. Well, we would just. There's never a trade that makes sense to. Like, these people make up the trades, but if you look back, once you make the trade, you either have to make another trade or your starting lineup is broken. We never in the trades get a power forward back. You want to know why? Because there are none that are better than him that are available.
Nope. I don't know a trade scenario where you get somebody better than John Collins in any of the trades. Anybody that's better than John Collins is not gonna trade for John Collins. And I hate to say it, man. I don't hate to say it. I'm gonna say it. It seems to me that the person that helped build the Warriors roster, and the person that helped build the roster that took us to the Eastern Conference playoffs say, I looked at the team. I know that I'm supposed to make the best decisions for the team, not for emotions and feelings. The best decisions are to trade Trae Young.
Who said that? Who said that before he said that? Who said that before he said that? Who said that before he said that?
You did. But okay. My point was, at the time, I was like, nah, you don't trade Trae at the time, because at the time, Trae Young was playing out of his mind. Oh.
At the end of the day, you already know I knew I'm not going to say this will be his peak value was 2 years ago, but when you got a player at that level, I had already come to grips with his flaws were too big for me. At that point, I was like, let's trade this guy, because what he said was exactly right. If you trade Trae Young, you still got a really good team here. If you just don't play Trae Young, you still have what I would consider a pretty good team. Now, him at that value, you would have to assume that you get a haul back for Trae Young. So you would already have a well-built, ready-made team, and you could legitimately get an entire haul back for this player.
Instead, it leaks back to Trey that he's probably on the chopping block, and then he throws a hissy fit and and they end up getting rid of Schlink, which did not make sense to me. Now, this may all work out well and good, and this may galvanize the team. It's happened before. We fired Lloyd, brought in Nate, and then we made the run to the Eastern Conference Finals. We got rid of Schlink.
It's a temporary fix.
We got rid of Schlink. We bring in Landry Fields and Kyle Korver. We win 5 in a row. But at the end of the day, the bad habits are still showing. The bad habits of being up all the way to the end of the game. And the thing about it is, I want to get here. I don't want to forget about DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is legit exactly what the Hawks needed. I wish we could have kept Kevin Huerter, but Kevin Huerter is not the person.
We could have kept Kevin Huerter.
Who would you have gotten rid of?
Yes, we could have. Nobody. We didn't need to get rid of anybody. He was only traded for tax reasons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's a big reason.
I mean, it just puts management ownership in a funny position where you're telling everybody that you're trying to win. You're holding people accountable for not winning games, and then you won't pay what it costs to have a competitive team. You're talking out both sides of your mouth. But I do agree, DeJounte was an excellent addition. I don't regret. First of all, please go back and look at those picks. One of those first rounders was never going to be a first rounder. It was never going to materialize as a first rounder. It's going to end up as 2 seconds. And then 2 picks for him is worth it. As long as we sign him, he is the run stopper. He is the only person who it's like his sad emotions don't ever take over. If the Hawks get down, we can just in years past we'll just get beat. Everybody will pack it up and be like, all right, we'll just try it again tomorrow. You're not even allowed to do that with DeJounte on the floor. They might go on maybe an 8-0 run, 10-0 run. He is going to go into the paint. He's going to shoot that floater. That's going to stop the run. The very next thing he's going to do is play lockdown defense, turn the guard over, and get a bucket at the rim.
And let me tell you, he did that against New York Knicks. The Hawks won 139-124. That game had 0 defense in the first half. The Knicks, I want to say, scored 139-124. Yeah, the Knicks scored 70 points, 75 points in the first half. Or shooting like 70. They were shooting 80%. I know they were shooting 80% after the first quarter, 72% at halftime. The Knicks were shooting 72%. DeJounte Murray, and he was upset that folks said that Jalen Brunson was better than DeJounte Murray. And I was like, y'all tripping. Y'all were like, DeJounte Murray's a 1-year wonder. And I was like, well, what is Jalen Brunson? I mean, ain't no difference. DeJounte liked the tweet, followed it up with 29.6 assists, or was it 13? 6 assists, 13 rebounds, 6 rebounds, 13 assists, and 3 steals against Jalen Brunson, and locked him down in the second half. The Knicks scored 50 points in the second half. 50.
Yep. They shot, I think it was like 75% in the first quarter, 65% in the second. Then after that, they fell off the face of the map.
Now, some of them, you knew it was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen because they were hitting every shot in the first quarter.
What do I tell you all the time? You only going to get so many makes before you run out. And if you use all your makes early, you better get up by a lead that's insurmountable. Other than that, eventually the numbers going to come back. And when the numbers come back your way, if it's close already, you are doomed.
Yeah, man. So DeJounte, what I like about DeJounte, he is strategically petty. He is petty about he remembers everything. He says everything. If y'all haven't had a chance to go back and listen to him on All the Smoke, discuss him and Tony Parker, he remembers everything. And he goes right back at you. But the thing is, he follows up his pettiness with actions. Right? I'm going to back up everything I say on the court. And what I'm scared of, or what I'm fearful of when it comes to this whole experiment with DeJounte and Trey, is Trey has now positioned himself with the ownership to where he's almost untradeable.
Clearly, he is untradeable. The guy who brought it up got fired.
If he's untradeable, and DeJounte Murray gets frustrated with how everything is run in the organization, he's already said, I'm not used to this. I'm used to the Spurs organization. I'm not used to all of this. This is new to me. I don't come from this. What makes you think he's going to stay? So if he leaves, now you've lost everything. You've lost all them picks. You've lost Herter. You've lost DeJounte. And now you stuck with Trey. Because you're probably going to end up losing John Collins. So now you stuck with Trey. And you're going to lose Nate. So now you stuck with Trey. Trey and DeAndre Hunter. And that makes us battling for the lottery with Orlando, who probably will be a top 5 team
after Victor Wembanyama will have drafted.
Yeah, man. So the Hawks. Go ahead.
I've always said this though. That's the reason I think that I've always been a proponent of. I think the Hawks have been very strategic about not putting another good guard around him, another guy who is a top tier guard around him, because you're going to show off all of his flaws. And I think that he did not pay attention to that. And I mean, a lot of people say he basically brokered this trade. I think that he eventually, him doing that will end up being the downfall. I don't see a situation where you move forward with Trey and DeJounte. And I don't
not with Trey Young's mindset the way it is now. No. It could have worked. And it can work. I don't
think that Trey is the better asset. I think that if you look at every game, if you look at this entire season so far, DeJounte Murray has been the best Atlanta Hawk.
Yeah. And I think that messes with Trey. If Trey's got to let go of his ego. He's got to understand that you are better at Steve Nash than you are at Dame Lillard or Steph Curry. You're not Steph Curry. They're not going to build a team around you the way they built around Steph Curry, because Steph Curry plays off the ball. Steph Curry passes. Steph Curry does all of the little things and is willing to sacrifice other parts of his game in order to just be the scorer and allow everybody else to do something. You don't.
And you, yeah, we don't even know if I'm not.
And you take terrible shots.
You won't even get into the Steph Curry role. You have the ball in hand all the time.
Well, except for on this 5-game win streak now, they actually gave the ball to DeJounte a lot, and they ran Trey off the ball, and they let Trey be the secondary playmaker, which, if you actually look at the way that the offense runs, you just get him away from being trapped by taking him off the ball, and then he can make the other pass, which allows you to get 11 assists, 9 assists, 8 assists, 12 assists, 12 assists, right? That allows you to do that, but you can't do that.
And you have to move without the ball, which is something that our offense already does not have the most movement, but I don't understand why Trey, you have to make it difficult. You standing in the corner is.
What I don't understand is why our offense doesn't have any movement with the starters. John Collins sits in the corner. DeAndre Hunter stands at the wing. Bogey stands at the wing, or Trey's at the top with. But when we put in the bench, the ball be popping.
Because all of those guys are trying to stay on the floor.
And we score, except for when you put in like a Holiday brother. But like when it's like,
who has no business playing as long as AJ Griffin is alive.
AJ Griffin, Jalen Johnson, and Onyeka Okongwu are a pretty good cohesive unit off the bench. They play well. They pass the ball well. They get everybody else involved. DeJounte Murray is normally running the point guard. And sometimes they'll stick John Collins there to let John Collins at least get some shots. If you notice that there's been a lot of John Collins and not Trey on the floor.
Yes.
Together.
So there's a ton of that. And now that you bring it up, you be like, oh, well, take one of these guys out.
It's always take Trey out first. It's always take Trey out first. And I've noticed that people were criticizing Nate's rotations for taking Trey out first. I actually don't have a problem with Nate's rotations in the first half because you have to take Trey out. Because if Trey goes on a heater, he's gonna shoot 70 times, and then John Collins is gonna go 3 for 4 for 7 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists, a block, and 5 fouls, and then DeAndre Hunter is gonna end up getting his points at the end of the game, and DeJounte Murray is gonna end up pushing because everybody ends up pressing because they don't get the ball because they know Trey's gonna shoot the ball. So you have to take Trey out in order to get everybody else involved. My problem is Nate's end of the game decisions. His end of the game decisions are just bad, and they've been bad.
I think he's fed up.
100%. Oh, I was trying to find it. Did you see when Nate and Trey got into it after that 5-second violation against at the end of the game?
No, I'm gonna have to go back and.
Trey walked off the court, and Nate he said something to Nate. And Nate turned around and said, "What?" And Trey went and sat down. And Nate walked up to him, was standing over him, was like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And Trey was like, you know, they were going back at it. You know, I don't know what they were saying. And then Nate walked away. And that was preceded by 3 minutes earlier when the Hawks were up by 7 or by 4. I'm sorry. No. The Hawks were up by 4. Trey comes down and just DeJounte Murray had just hit a shot. DeAndre Hunter had just hit a shot. Trey comes down and shoots a 30-foot three-pointer with 22 seconds left on the shot clock. Mind you, Charlotte and Terry Rozier are cooking at this. It's really just Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier and Mason Plumlee. It's those two people.
Well, Trey knows he's unbenchable. And as long as he knows that, he's going to do whatever he wants to.
Yeah. Landry Fields, man, you got to figure this out, bro.
Hey, you signed up for this job. Let me tell you. They finna work you, boy.
Boy, it's bad. But with that I want to talk about this. Going forward, we got 3 games this week. At Chicago, at Oklahoma City versus LA. Clippers. We just beat the Clippers in LA. Chicago, we owe them. I think we split the series so far. Chicago is another team that right now is imploding. And then Oklahoma City, who is actually on the rise. These next games, and then we'll throw in Portland next Monday, a week from Monday, I'm sorry, to round out the month. If we can win, I would love to win 4 of these games because that means we will go 12-4.
So what? We get, like last night, that's a game we can't lose to Charlotte. Down 3 starters. You can look at the games and say we should win this game. And then the team gonna beat themselves. That's the frustrating part.
Well, I don't put this on anybody but Trey. I watched that Charlotte game. I don't put that on anybody but Trey. He shot us to a loss. I saw it. I watched it. The whole fourth quarter. And he didn't care. He wouldn't look at the coaches. He wouldn't do nothing. And I'm like, dog, like what clicks? I tell you, and y'all laughed at me when I said this, and I say this every damn time we talk about when Trey messes up like this. I blame Lou Williams. Lou told him, this is your team, and you need to always take the last shot. And every time he turns up in the fourth quarter, and we fuck up. Every time. Let's look at the losses. We can. Charlotte led in the fourth. Milwaukee led in the fourth. Lakers led in the fourth. Golden State led in the fourth overtime and double overtime. Lakers led in the fourth. Brooklyn led in the fourth. Indiana led in the fourth. Chicago led in the fourth. Orlando, we got blown out. Memphis, we got blown out. Brooklyn led in the fourth. New York, we got blown out. I don't think we played. We didn't play well at all. I don't think anybody played for real. Oklahoma City led in the fourth. Philadelphia led in the fourth. Miami led in the fourth. We actually almost blew that Miami game. Houston led in the fourth. We've led in the fourth the majority of, and I'm not talking about like 1 or 2 point leads. I'm talking about 5 to double-digit point leads late in the game, and we end up losing. It's frustrating. I put that on coaching, and I put that on the star player, Trey Young. You have to be that person. You have to be that dude. You have to be unselfish. We need Steve Nash. We don't need Steph Curry. Not on this team.
Or be Steph Curry.
I don't think you can.
That means you gotta be him.
You can't.
Steph Curry
is
don't
unselfish.
need great value, Steph Curry.
Steph Curry is unselfish, though. So, how do you see us finishing off the month of December? I told you, at Chicago, at Oklahoma City, versus LA Clippers, at Portland. Those are all winnable games.
I think we still keep around the same pace. We won the last 8 out of 4. I think we keep around that pace. We're just gonna, because that's the frustrating part is everybody's like Hawks. This place is in disarray. We're a decent team with the mediocre record. It's just you can see that the team is not enjoying playing basketball and they are not playing as a team very well.
They don't like
they're
Trey.
Still pretty good.
It's pretty obvious that they don't like Trey. What's crazy is we are a game behind. We would have been in 7th place. We would have been in 7th place with those 14 games coming up, with those 4 games coming up, and if we had won those, we would have been out of the play-in. We would have been in 5th place. Because if you look at it, it's really Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Cleveland, and then the best of the rest for now.
If you really look at it, this is what I believe. Celtics, 76ers, Bucks, elite. Nets, with Kevin Durant, elite.
Oh, okay.
Without Kevin Durant, they're the worst. They might be the worst team in the East.
What? No.
Without Kevin Durant.
You said the worst team in the East? Worse than Detroit, Charlotte,
without
Orlando?
Kevin Durant.
Worst team you said it 3 times. I've heard you say without Kevin Durant.
Yes.
You think that without Kevin Durant and Kyrie, they're worse than Detroit.
Before Kevin
Charlotte,
Durant came and they
Orlando.
won them 12 games in a row, they were one of the worst teams in the East. You right. They didn't start winning them games till Kevin showed up now.
What are you talking about? You talking about when Kyrie showed up.
The Nets.
Kevin Durant wasn't hurt this year until he hurt his knee. He played. Kyrie was the one that was out.
But what I'm saying is they went into the tank as soon as Kevin Durant got hurt.
Okay. I think they lost. I mean, they just won yesterday, but I don't think they're one of the worst teams. I don't think they're the worst team in the East without Kevin Durant. I think they're a play-in team. Personally. I think they can beat Chicago.
If they were to get to the play-in, I wouldn't even be concerned. That's how I will feel. And if the Hawks met the Nets with no Kevin Durant.
That's where we differ. I am concerned about whoever the Hawks play because we don't ever play to our opponent. We don't ever play above our opponent, ever. We always play down to our opponent. But if we win the next 4 games, which is high and mighty, I know that's a lot. If you just win 3, if you go 3-1, you go 3-1, that probably puts you in 6th place. 3-1 puts you in 6th place. That's not bad.
Nope. That's right where we're at right now.
And let me tell you, I think
that we're a better team than the Heat. We have to be a better team than the Heat. We have to be a better team than the Knicks.
We're better than the Knicks.
You have to figure out a way.
We're better than the Knicks.
Yeah.
I think we're better than the Heat. Jimmy Butler is such a dog on that team that, I mean, he could pretty much shut down whoever is scoring for us and will them to, like, he's like the catalyst for that team. Without Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat are the worst team in the NBA. You put Jimmy Butler on that team with his will to win, and all of a sudden, they're the 6th, 5th, or 4th team in the East. But I think we're better than them. I think the biggest trick bag you said is Brooklyn without Kevin Durant, which is true. But even with Kevin Durant, I think the biggest trick bag is Milwaukee. We have Milwaukee's number. We have their number.
I don't like to say that out loud because people don't believe me. They think I'm crazy. I'm like, nah, y'all just don't watch the game. But
and Giannis,
but we have the team built to do the best with Giannis.
Giannis played horrible against us when they beat us, and it was the only reason they beat us is because somebody shot us out the game again. Giannis and Giannis and Onyeka Okongwu battle. Now Giannis, of course, is taller, but you can throw so many different people at him from the Hawks. And outside of Giannis, and Brook Lopez, who really doesn't do much inside the paint, they front court ain't the greatest. right? You got Giannis. You got
Bobby Portis plays different
now.
basketball.
Bobby Portis plays like a man against us every time. But last game, who was giving Bobby Portis problems? Jalen Johnson. Couldn't stick with him. Jalen Johnson was too fast.
Jalen Johnson. I can see how that could be. I understand why Bobby Portis plays well against John Collins. I also understand that's probably the same reason that he struggles with Jalen. Jalen does run now. He will move around a little bit more, and he has a better handle of the ball. Jalen is actually a really good basketball. I'm not saying really. Sorry. He's a talented basketball player who does not get enough reps to improve his confidence.
And the thing is, he's getting more reps now, slightly, and his 3-point shot has gone from like 10% to like 35 in like 3 games.
Ben Simmons. That boy has come in and built a shot. Even a Okongwu is building a mid-range. That's why when you see these guys who just don't have a portion of their game, you can't be trying that hard. Jalen Johnson, while he is fast and can dribble, he does have a weird kind of coordination. He runs kind of weird to me, but it's fast.
He prances.
But he's fast, and he's
down
fast.
That court, and
he's
he can
fast
jump
running, and he's fast with the ball or without the ball.
And he can jump. He has a quick second jump, and he can jump, and he can leap. Nate, man, and it's something. And it's something that everybody's been saying for a while, and it's something that now the national media is saying is like, hey, why aren't you playing these younger players? Where is the player development? There is no player development.
Well, the issue is AJ Griffin plays like a 35-year-old man every time he gets in there.
And then
it's like he already knows I have to be perfect when I get in here. And you can tell he's a coach's kid. Because he does exactly whatever you would want a player to do in the situation. That's what he does every time.
Every single time. He makes all the right moves.
He's a problem for Nate. And I think he's a problem for Bogey too.
And he makes me
very comfortable moving Bogey.
Oh yeah. If you're not gonna trade Trey, you gotta trade Bogey. You can't have this many people that dominate the basketball. It can only be 2. And it can only be Trey and DeJounte. You can't have a third person that's going to dribble the air out of the ball like Bogey. Although Bogey is so streaky, but when he's on, Bogey don't be missing.
Bogey is a guy who will make you regret trading him as soon as you trade him. Because he might torch you for 40.
Like Kevin Huerter?
No, Kevin Huerter will never do. Now, as much as I'm happy for Kayvon, I see that his success is mounted in them handing him the ball, and he makes every shot now. He won't have, and I don't want this to sound bad or anything. I think that the Hawks will get him every time. Every time the Kings and Hawks play, the Hawks are gonna win. I think that if Bogey goes to a team, he don't have the Serbian sniper don't care.
Yeah, and I don't think him and Trey get along that well either.
You don't see him get red. You see him get mad.
Yep. Well.